Imagine buying your dream home in one of the most luxurious neighborhoods in California, only to end up in a legal war with one of the world's biggest pop stars. Yes, that's exactly what happened in Montecito, where Katy Perry found herself locked in a bitter $15 million mansion dispute that no one saw coming. And trust me, you'll want to watch this story until the end, because the twist will leave you questioning who really owns this Hollywood dream palace. It all started when Katy Perry, who has built a real estate empire alongside her music career, set her sights on a stunning mansion in Montecito. Known for its celebrity residents like Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry, Montecito isn't just any neighborhood. It's where Hollywood royalty goes to escape the chaos of Los Angeles. But this mansion wasn't just another purchase. It became the center of a controversy that shook the entire community. The seller of the property was 84-year-old Carl Westcott, a successful entrepreneur who initially agreed to sell the house. But soon after signing the deal, Westcott claimed that he had been under severe mental and physical distress when he agreed, arguing that the sale wasn't fair. According to his lawyers, he was battling Huntington's disease and recovering from surgery at the time, meaning he wasn't in a position to make such a massive decision. This turned what should have been a smooth luxury transaction into a courtroom showdown. On one side stood Katy Perry, backed by her fiancé Orlando Bloom, insisting the deal was legally binding. On the other side stood Westcott and his family, saying he had been taken advantage of during a vulnerable moment. And this is where the real drama begins. As the case unfolded, the courtroom turned into a stage for high drama, almost like a Hollywood movie itself. Katy Perry's legal team argued that the contract was perfectly valid. Westcott had signed the agreement willingly, and the paperwork was airtight. They emphasized that Perry wasn't just buying a home. She was making a long-term investment for her family's future. After all, Katy and Orlando Bloom wanted to raise their daughter in the serene, private environment that Montecito provided. But Westcott's side painted a very different picture. They claimed he had no real understanding of what he was signing. His attorneys pointed out that he had just been released from the hospital after undergoing back surgery and was under the influence of strong pain medication. To them, this wasn't about business. It was about fairness and morality. Was it right, they asked, for a superstar with immense resources to move forward with a deal made under such questionable circumstances? The local community began buzzing with speculation. Some saw Perry as a determined businesswoman standing her ground in a tough negotiation. Others, however, criticized her, suggesting that celebrities often use their power to get what they want, regardless of who might be hurt in the process. The media added fuel to the fire, covering every detail and making it impossible for Perry or Westcott to escape the spotlight. And here's where the tension rose even higher. The case wasn't just about money. It was about reputation, image, and legacy. For Perry, the outcome could shape how the public viewed her beyond the music industry. For Westcott, it was about dignity in his final years. Both sides had everything to lose, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. The courtroom battles dragged on, but the shocking verdict would change everything. When the judge finally delivered the verdict, the room went silent. After months of legal back and forth, the court sided with Katy Perry. The ruling stated that the contract Westcott had signed was binding and enforceable, regardless of his medical condition at the time. In other words, Perry had every right to move forward with the purchase of the $15 million mansion. This decision sent shockwaves across Montecito and beyond. For many, it was a moment that highlighted just how powerful celebrities can be when it comes to securing what they want. Perry, who had been criticized heavily during the proceedings, now stood vindicated in the eyes of the law. Yet the victory wasn't without controversy. Critics immediately took to social media, arguing that the legal system had overlooked Westcott's vulnerable state. Was this really justice? Or was it simply wealth and influence winning once again? For Perry, the outcome meant she could finally settle into the mansion she had fought so hard for. Reports described the property as breathtaking, an estate with sweeping ocean views, manicured gardens, and a level of privacy that few places in California can provide. It was exactly the kind of home where she could retreat from the constant glare of fame. But for Westcott and his family, the verdict felt like a devastating loss. His children voiced their disappointment publicly, saying their father's health had not been taken seriously. To them, It wasn't about money, but about protecting someone who wasn't in a position to defend himself. The emotional weight of the case lingered, leaving many to question whether the law had truly served justice. And yet, the story doesn't end here. Because what happened after the verdict added an entirely new twist that no one could have predicted. After the verdict, Katy Perry might have thought the storm was finally behind her, but the aftermath proved just as dramatic as the trial itself. News outlets and tabloids exploded with headlines, framing the dispute as a classic David versus Goliath story, an aging man fighting for dignity against a global superstar. Even though Perry had legally won, the public narrative was far more complicated. Some fans rushed to her defense, saying she had every right to protect her investment. They argued that if the courts found the deal valid, then she wasn't in the wrong. She was simply standing firm as any buyer would. But others weren't so forgiving. Social media users began questioning her morals, with some accusing her of exploiting a vulnerable seller. Memes, tweets, and even op-eds flooded the internet, each adding fuel to the controversy. For Perry, it became a balancing act between celebrating her win and managing her image. She kept relatively quiet publicly, choosing not to gloat or rub salt in the wounds. Instead, she and Orlando Bloom focused on moving into their new home, shielding their daughter from the chaos. But silence didn't stop the whispers, and the Montecito mansion dispute became one of those Hollywood sagas people wouldn't stop talking about. Meanwhile, Westcott's family continued voicing their frustration. They called for changes in real estate laws to better protect elderly and ill individuals from entering agreements they may not fully understand. Their campaign gained some traction, attracting attention from advocacy groups who argued this case highlighted a larger problem in luxury real estate deals. So, while Perry legally walked away as the winner, the moral debate raged on. Was it a smart business move, or a decision that would haunt her public reputation for years to come? In the end, the Montecito mansion dispute became more than just a legal battle over property. It turned into a cultural flashpoint about power, wealth, and fairness. Katy Perry secured the mansion, but the story stuck with fans and critics alike, raising questions that went far beyond real estate. Could this case redefine how people view celebrity privilege? Or would it simply fade into Hollywood's long list of scandals? The truth lies somewhere in between. What made this saga unforgettable was the clash of two very different worlds. On one side was Perry, one of the most successful pop icons of our generation, determined to secure a dream home for her family. On the other side was Carl Westcott, a frail man in his 80s, fighting not just for a house, but for his dignity in the final chapter of his life. Their conflict wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was about principle, respect, and the human cost of high-stakes deals. Even today, people continue to debate who was truly in the right. Some argue that Perry simply followed the law and played by the rules of business. Others believe that morality should outweigh legal technicalities, and that compassion should have guided the outcome. In a way, both perspectives carry truth, which is why the case still sparks heated conversations. For Montecito, the saga was a reminder that behind the grand gates and ocean views, real struggles play out. Struggles that expose human vulnerability even in the most glamorous zip codes. And for Katy Perry, this chapter added a complex layer to her public image. Whether remembered as a bold businesswoman or as a celebrity who pushed too far, the story ensured one thing. This $15 million dispute will forever be linked to her name.